I like Sasuke's story. Well, no, I love Sasuke's story, and I really like Naruto's too, but let's focus on Sasuke for a moment. This is the story of a boy who went through tremendous heartache, tremendous suffering, abuse from his older brother. And while that brother in the end was well-meaning, it was still abuse, and that led Sasuke to hatred. But in the end, the love Naruto displayed helped Sasuke return to the light. The story of Sasuke is the story of getting lost only to be found again. It's a story of all the human elements in our heart, our darkest selves that sometimes make their way out. But the best part is the redemption arc, when he comes to the decision that he is wrong. Sasuke is the story of us. Some of us may have been hurt. Some of us may be walking a bad path, be it self-destructive to ourselves and or destructive to others. But the message in Sasuke's story is that it's never too late to stop. It's never too late to come back. Sasuke, like a prodigal son, went his own way, forsaking those who loved him, living with hatred and anger, consumed by them. But eventually he found his way home again, and that home was open to him for forgiveness, for grace and mercy. I love that. I really do. This is why Naruto is a real show, man. It is top tier, because besides the action, there's a depth of heart and meaning hidden between the lines that I think resonates with all of us. A story about the world's corruption, but also the hope we can find, the hope we can be found, that everyone belongs. Nobody is an outcast, and there's not a single person unwanted. A story of hope. And in the world we live in today, with wars, hurricanes, and many other tragedies that see lives young and old come to a premature end, hope is the greatest thing we need. But I'm going on for too long. I hope you'll join me as we continue this story. A story about a man who, having been given the chance to do it all over again, decides to wash away his past and walk a better path. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The training regimen was hard. Sasuke was getting serious with it. For 2.5 years, very few noteworthy events happened. There was your occasional mission, but when Sasuke wasn't out on mission, he was training his hardest. He was adopting a better diet than normal to help further build muscle. Developing his physical self was important, as of all the things he carried over into his new self his physical strength was not one of them. And while he did have both of his arms at this time, he had yet to reach the strength he had when he only had one of them. So he was focusing right now on building muscle. More protein, less fat, and an attempt to try a technique for cycling carbs. This was all an attempt to burn away any useless baby fat that would get in the way and increase muscle size, tone, and quality. In doing so, his physical self became far stronger than it had been at this age, and with that naturally came an increase in chakra. He continued to hone his techniques. It wasn't enough to have high chakra reserves, so he began to train in a way to reduce chakra waste to zero. He wanted his reserves to be able to last him for days. If a battle took a week, he wanted to ensure that he had enough chakra to sustain himself and keep him going. Even more if possible. He was setting the bar high. The Sage of Six Paths was stated to have been able to fight against Kaguya for a whole month with his brother's help. Sasuke set the bar that high, aiming for the stars, knowing that he might never reach it, but knowing all the same that getting close was better than going nowhere. And Sasuke was pleased to say that he was showing results. His musculature had increased, not enough to get in the way of his movement or speed, but enough to be well defined. He'd never been in shape like this. It seemed a new lease on life would give you the motivation to do better than you've ever done. You see, Sasuke wasn't of the mind to affect nothing anymore. Was he ever really? Sasuke had always in the back of his mind known that he shouldn't attempt to change anything in the past, lest the future be changed as well. But Sasuke had already changed the past to the point that he didn't know if events could transpire in the same way. It was like a whole new world, a whole new story now, where Sasuke had a rough idea of possible events. But he recognized that they might not be accurate anymore, and that was why he was training. He was going to attempt to power cliff the Akatsuki, and if they were preparing more as well, then at least he'd be close enough in power to them to not get immediately skunked. Currently, Sasuke was standing among the trees in he and Itachi's favorite training ground. They were working on their taijutsu techniques. As Itachi stood there looking at his little brother, he couldn't help but reflect on how much he had changed in the past few years. A growth spurt had left Sasuke's height comparable to Itachi's, and now his training had left him visibly more muscular than even Itachi himself. Itachi always considered himself to be a prodigy, speaking humbly of course, but Sasuke had surpassed everything that Itachi had ever been. Sharingan, Mangekyo, Rinnegan, he had it all. Itachi had only just awakened his Sharingan on mission when one on his team in the Anbu he had been close with died in a skirmish. It wasn't the first time he'd witnessed death. Tenma's death had awakened Itachi's Sharingan. This one, like the last one, was unexpected. Shisui helped Itachi get through it, but it was enough to shake him and enough to awaken his Mangekyo. I apologize that I can't help you achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Sasuke told him as they both displayed theirs. It would be the least I could do to repay you for giving me mine in my timeline. It's fine, Itachi said. Some things aren't meant to happen, I guess. Sasuke thought about it further before returning to the reason they were standing there. Taijutsu. Ready? Itachi said. Ready, replied Sasuke. A moment later, Itachi and Sasuke disappeared in a flash of light, beginning to clash. Moving so fast as to leave behind a body flicker's afterimage, they required the Sharingan to see how fast they were going. This time, they had agreed not to use their ninjutsu, only taijutsu. To this end, Sasuke tried to offer equality in advantages to Itachi, in that they both agreed to only use their Sharingan. Sasuke could not revert his Rinnegan, but he could turn off the Tomoe. If the Tomoe of his Rinnegan were inactive, then his Rinnegan would function like a natural Rinnegan, which did not have any advanced visual prowess to it, meaning its ability to see speed was limited in the eye to below Sharingan levels of sight, while his actual Sharingan did all the heavy lifting. This technically gave Itachi a bit of an advantage, but not much, as one Sharingan didn't really affect things that much when faced against two. Sasuke would clash fists with Itachi. All the while, from a control room outside of time and space, Fu watched with great interest. Wow, this fight looks like one of the ones from my universe. Fancy techniques and tricks are always fun to use, but sometimes nothing really beats the colliding of extremities and the clashing of bone and sinew. As Itachi and Sasuke fight, they hit the ground and continued striking out, only for Itachi to try some holds on Sasuke. Itachi was a far better grappler than Sasuke, but Sasuke was no slouch. They were keeping the battle strictly taijutsu, so Sasuke didn't know where this technique might fit in, but he tried it anyway. Suddenly, Sasuke's own strength skyrocketed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. A bit of an aura appeared around him as his skin turned pink. Fu widened his eyes. Wait, was that the Kaioken? He looked through his records, sure he had seen this before. Okay, that's the 8 gates technique. This is the gate of life. It seems that while the Kaioken is designed to multiply your power past what you normally have, this technique is designed to give you all of what you normally have. Fu laughs. Both are power-ups that are hard on the body, but I wonder which is stronger. Kaioken can go up to 100 times, but how far does the 8th gate go? Kaioken x 100 can be survived if trained carefully in it. Makes me wonder what would happen if I had that Rock Lee fellow taught the Kaioken instead of the 8 gates. Fu giggles as he writes that scenario down in his little book. Something interesting, no doubt. Fu continued to watch the battle. With the 3rd gate, Sasuke easily broke free from Itachi's grasp. Sasuke, Itachi said in a slightly upward-sloped judgmental tone. I thought we agreed that we weren't using ninjutsu. Sasuke looked down. This is a taijutsu technique, isn't it? It doesn't transform my chakra, but it does give you an unfair advantage. Is this about beating me or learning? Itachi asked. Sasuke nodded and dropped out of it. Sorry, I won't use it again. Itachi nodded and lowered back down into his fighting stance. At about that time, they got a call. Sasuke and Itachi looked back to see Izumi heading for them. Sasuke walked off to the side to give Itachi and his wife a little space while he took his towel to dry the sweat from himself. Dinner's about ready, Izumi said to Itachi. Itachi gave her a kiss on the cheek. Izumi then looked to Sasuke. Your fiancé's waiting for you, she said. Sasuke nodded and turned to begin to leave. Yes, things had changed in the last 2 years, but after thinking it over, he had decided that he'd marry Sakura again. Since the first one was reversed by unwanted time traveling, he would just go for it once more. By the time he reached the house, he entered and saw Sakura helping set the table. He walked to her and took her hand. There, he looked at the engagement ring he had gotten her before kissing her knuckles. They weren't of the age yet where they could legally marry without the agreement of both parties' parents, and as they sat down, they said the blessing and prepared to eat. They continued to discuss everything that was happening. So, have you heard from Naruto about his training? Sasuke asked. Sakura nodded. He said he's made great strides in his training since we last talked. That's good, Sasuke said. Did you tell him how far I've been going? Sakura nodded. I wanted to be humble with you as to not make him feel bad. Sasuke smiled a bit. The goal is to make him feel bad. He's my rival. We need him to suffer as long as I outpace him so that his only recourse is to surpass me. I want him to surpass me. If he wants to be Hokage, he's got to do that. Sakura smiled. Well, you'll have to tell him yourself. Sasuke looked at her for a moment and then looked back at the calendar. Oh yeah, he's gonna be finished with his training, isn't he? Sakura nodded. His letter said he was coming home in about a week, so Probably about the time he gets my letter, he'll be headed back." Sasuke smiled. "I'll have to test him." And that's exactly what he did. When Naruto returned, Sasuke tested him. Naruto was shocked to see how strong Sasuke had become. He outpaced Naruto quite a bit, but Naruto had grown enough to show promise that he would eventually catch up. And now that Sasuke was living rent-free in Naruto's head, he could truly take his training seriously. The next events to happen would be coming soon, and Sasuke knew about it. He would eventually visit Hiruzen. You see, Sasuke had been cluing Hiruzen into the truth about where he had come from, what he had seen, and Hiruzen had begun to secretly accept Sasuke's help with mission planning. They would prepare Team Kakashi and Team Guy to go rescue Gaara. However, they wouldn't time it to be actually capable of saving Gaara. Perhaps Sasuke had been selfish in the past, and had not been willing to sacrifice anything for the greater good. But at this point in time, after learning what it meant to be a real shinobi, Sasuke knew that there were certain things that needed to happen, and among those things was the Fourth Shinobi World War. The world always sat on the edge of war, but when all sides were united under a single banner against the Akatsuki, that allowed the world to achieve peace for a time, and Sasuke knew that unless that happened, the world would be in danger. Sasuke knew they were forced to choose between the many and the few, as this was the responsibility of a shinobi, to make the hard decisions. It hurt Sasuke's heart, but if people were going to die either way, did it not make more sense that the few should die instead of the many? And that peace should come where no more would die in battle as opposed to the many wars that might occur afterward. With that threat looming over them and the possible futures that could occur if things didn't play out properly, Sasuke made the fateful decision to let the story play out as it had, stopping as many deaths as could be stopped, but sacrificing what was needed to reach the end of the goals. This was something that weighed heavily on his heart, but alas, he had to do it. They would head out to face Sasori and Deidara, discovering that Gaara was dead. Sasuke was sure that he had to kill both Deidara and Sasori here, and if he didn't, things wouldn't flow. Deidara was supposed to be killed by Sasuke while hunting for Itachi, but that wouldn't happen, meaning that Deidara was currently a loose end. Knowing Sakura was not strong enough due to never having trained under Tsunade, Sasuke did the best he could and had Naruto and Kakashi stay behind to fight Sasori while he followed after the escaping Deidara. Having taken his clay bird in an attempt to escape with the body of Gaara, Sasuke would follow on foot until he utilized a Menoteji Kara to switch places with Gaara's body, surprising Deidara. Before Deidara had the chance to do anything, Sasuke would stab him through the back before diving from the clay bird. With a single use of his Amaterasu, he set the clay bird aflame, causing it to explode. Sasuke hit the ground, having retrieved Gaara's body. Returning to the cave, he found that Sasori had been defeated, but it wasn't over yet. They needed to revive Gaara. He was the 5th Kazekage, and it was partially because of his cooperation that the allied shinobi forces got off the ground at all. They needed him. And so, without interfering, Sasuke let Naruto scold Chiyo for what happened, which caused Chiyo's heart to change. She would sacrifice her own life for Gaara's, bringing him back to life. They would proceed to return home and wait. Eventually, it became known that Hidan and Kakuzu were nearby, having collected the bounty on the head of a monk. When Hiruzen gave the orders to hunt down Hidan and Kakuzu, Sasuke asked to be put on Asuma Sarutobi's team, which Hiruzen allowed. As they would search out the Akatsuki members, Sasuke didn't speak or say anything. He tried to downplay his presence as much as possible in hopes of not interrupting Asuma's thought process. Eventually, they found Hidan and Kakuzu. However, without warning, Sasuke used Amaterasu on Hidan. Sasuke knew that Hidan was immortal, but so were the black flames of Amaterasu. Hidan couldn't die, but he couldn't regenerate either. So an attack that burns one to nothingness until not even ashes remain to burn should be enough to overcome his immortality. Hidan panicked and tried to attack them quickly, but Sasuke had them continue to avoid Hidan, telling them that if he touched them with those black flames, they would spread to the group. And while Sasuke could cancel any of the flames, he didn't want anyone being put in danger. As they evaded the flaming cultist further, Sasuke attempted to feed the flames by using Amaterasu on Hidan again. This increased both temperature and spread, which even Hidan couldn't withstand. This marked the ending of Hidan. Kakuzu, seeing this, attempted to escape, but Sasuke would not have it. He used a Menoteji Kara to switch places with Kakuzu's cloak and got close to him. With the powers of his Mangekyo Sharingan, he was able to discern what it was that kept Kakuzu alive for so long, realizing it was his multiple hearts. Knowing he had to deal with him quickly, Sasuke activated the 5th gate to increase his power. He rushed at Kakuzu with speed beyond what Kakuzu was capable of seeing, and proceeded to pummel him. Before Kakuzu could even properly fight back, Sasuke had already perforated each of his many hearts, piercing each of the masks on his body with his blade. Kakuzu fell. This left Team Asuma in shock. They would recognize his powers, as well as his ringed eye, and declare him a user of the Rinnegan, like the Sage of Six Paths. Sasuke would look to them and nod. Indeed, I am a Rinnegan user, but this is a very important secret you'll have to keep. It's a part of a very secret contingency plan that the Hokage has set up. And now that you know about it, you're sworn to secrecy. The Hokage will tell you more later if you have questions. Just know you're not allowed to tell anyone. They all agreed. Returning to the village, Sasuke knew what events would transpire next. They would head for Hiruzen's office to speak with him. I'm sure you've received reports about the location of the Akatsuki's secret base, Sasuke said. However, I would implore you not to send a scout. Why not? Did you know about it? Hiruzen asked. Hiruzen nodded and sat down. Amagakure, correct? Sasuke asked. Hiruzen nodded slowly. So you do know about it. Does that mean you know what happens? I do, Sasuke said. Amagakure is indeed the location of the Akatsuki's secret base. However, the information you would receive from going there is almost nothing, and you lose a valuable shinobi. Hiruzen's eyes widen. Do you mean Jiraiya? Yes, Sasuke said. You would send Jiraiya in an attempt to ascertain the identities of and the plans and location of the Akatsuki, but you would really get nothing besides a weak explanation of Six Paths' power, and I can already give you that. Then instead of sending a scouting mission, why not send an army, Hiruzen asked. Why not end this now? Because I'm not convinced you can end it now, Sasuke said. While we could defeat Pain, the current figurehead of the Akatsuki, its true leader wouldn't even be there. Besides, we're letting them gather the tailed beasts for war to set off a chain reaction within the 5 great villages. We want a war to begin to foster unity. I feel bad about desiring a war, Hiruzen said. I understand, Sasuke said. For a time, I felt that this sort of thinking was everything that was wrong with the shinobi world, and now I'm a part of that system, contributing to it. But we can't waver. I'm trying to make a better future. And while I know I'm probably just doing something very wrong, possibly evil, I know it will work out for the best. I'm simply choosing the lesser of 2 evils. Hiruzen nodded. I understand what that is like. I just can't imagine my legacy pushing us into another world war. This will be the 3rd one under my watch. Sasuke nodded. Sometimes what's most important isn't how people remember us, but what we do when they don't. I learned that from Itachi in my timeline. Sometimes the best course of action seems to vilify us, and even so, what we do is out of love for our village. It's a form of ultimate sacrifice. Not that we died as heroes, but that we heroically died as villains, at least in the eyes of the village. So then, what do we do now, Hiruzen asked, returning to the topic. We wait, Sasuke said. Pain will come to us. He will attack us, and though we hate to see it happen, if he does, we can use that as a reason to initiate a 5 Kage summit, and we can use both the attack and the repelling of the attack as a bargaining tool to put us in charge of the allied shinobi forces. Hiruzen sat there for a moment and listened. You know, Danzo used to talk a lot like that. That struck Sasuke in the heart. Wow, no need to insult me. Hiruzen apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, but now you're speaking as a real Black Ops Shadow Hokage. Sasuke nodded. That's because I have experience as one. In my time, Naruto became Hokage, and I was his supporting shadow, just as Madara was to Hashirama, just as Danzo was to you. The only difference is, I remain steadfastly loyal to the village and my Kage. That you can trust. Hiruzen nodded. If it must be done, then I'll allow it. Sasuke nodded and stood, walking for the door. He stopped for a moment. Also, before I forget, you need to convince the Toad Sages to train Naruto in Sage Mode as soon as possible. He needs to be ready for when Pain arrives. We're going to need as much help as possible. And that's what Hiruzen did. Naruto would be sent to train with the Toad Sages at Mount Myoboku, after which he would be returned to Konoha. And it wasn't a moment too soon. Pain attacked that very day. Together, Naruto and Sasuke faced Pain. Letting Naruto take care of the 6 paths on his own, Sasuke faced the Diva path. I won't let you destroy my village, Sasuke said as he removed his eye patch. Pain had a short look of shock on his face, barely discernible before it returned to his expressionless demeanor. This world only needs one god, he said. Sasuke scoffed. That's hubris. Did you develop it before or after you failed to save Yahiko? Pain stood there silently for a moment. Inside, he was fuming, but he refused to show it. Do not speak as if you know anything, Pain said. I'll speak because I do know everything. I know what it feels like to walk the path of pain and to seek retribution against the world. I know what it is to gain and lose and to gain again. I wouldn't be so conceited as to believe myself that high, especially when I can't save anyone. And you can't save anyone either. You don't even have the means to, so don't let your power go to your head. Diva raised his hand to utilize a Shinra Tensei against Sasuke, but Sasuke responded with the same technique. The clashing forces met in the middle, compressing air before bouncing back against them, causing them to be pushed back by their own attacks. Sasuke pulled his katana and rushed at Pain, who utilized his chakra rods to catch the blade's strikes. Together, as they fought, they began to rise up into the sky, hovering there, Sasuke continuing to strike out at Pain. When Sasuke found himself disarmed from a strike, he was both surprised and impressed with Pain's kenjutsu, but it didn't really change much. Sasuke merely developed a new blade through the use of the Ashura path. "You're pretty strong," Sasuke said, "but let's face the facts. You've split your power among 6 vessels. Not only are your chakra reserves spread out, but all of the Rinnegan techniques as well. In this, your favorite form, all you can use is the Diva path. For me, I can use that and all the others as well, and let me be honest, I'm not even at my full power right now." Pain looked curiously at Sasuke. "Then what is your full power?" Suddenly, Sasuke's skin turned pink as his chakra appeared around him mixed with sweat. Pain opened his mouth to speak. "Is that the..." Suddenly, Pain was already on the ground, having been dragged down more quickly than his Rinnegan could see. Sasuke had him by the ankle. With a single jerk, he pulled Pain over his head and smashed him into the ground. Before Pain could get up, Sasuke put a fist through his back, shattering his spine and any internal organs that might be in the way. Pulling his bloody, bladed fist back from Pain's broken body, Sasuke looked down at him. He then took one of the chakra control rods and used it to sense the location of the real body. Traveling to its location, he easily killed Konan with nothing more than an Amaterasu. And as for Nagato himself, he simply killed him with a blade to the chest. And with that, the battle was over. Sasuke knew he could end the Akatsuki's plans by simply using Amaterasu on Pain's body, burning away his Rinnegan. But he knew that they would be integral to the 4th Shinobi World War, so he opted to have them taken out and secretly locked away. And by secretly, I mean it appeared to be secret, but in truth it was designed to leak a little information and make it easier for them to steal. It was important that the Akatsuki were kept in the dark about Konoha's attempts to help them. After this event, the 5 Kage Summit was called, where Hiruzen would attend with Sasuke's presence. There, they would speak of the threat of the Akatsuki, the threat to the world, and they'd basically come right out and ask, "So what are we gonna do about it?" With Gaara on their side, they were able to push for an alliance, and with the reminder that all the villages had, to a point, been attacked by the Akatsuki, the need for vengeance became a great motivator. A shared pain and shared anger toward the enemy would become a unifier, creating a brotherhood between nations. It was from this that Sasuke began to realize that Pain's plot actually had merit, but it wouldn't have worked out the way he thought it would. Pain does indeed unify people, but it's through shared experiences and through the similarities within everyone that makes it work. In the end, it's not just that we're all hurting, but also that we all have something in common. And for the allied shinobi forces, that thing they had in common was an enemy. And through that enemy, Sasuke knew that peace could be attained. This was further agreed upon when Obito appeared to declare the 4th Shinobi World War himself. With that done, the only thing left was to elect a commander-in-chief, and through Sasuke's carefully designed argument that he had presented to Hiruzen beforehand, Hiruzen would be named the supreme leader of the allied shinobi forces. Returning to Konoha, Sasuke informed Hiruzen to send Naruto away. He told Hiruzen that there was an island very important to Naruto's growth as a shinobi, and once he would complete his training, he would then seek to join the war. When he did, Hiruzen would have to allow Naruto to fight, which Hiruzen agreed to. Returning home, Sasuke informed Itachi and Shisui of what was to occur, and they readied themselves for war. Sakura would also be fighting in this war, though Sasuke held fear in his heart. With Hiruzen still alive, Sakura never had a true chance to train under Tsunade, which meant that she hadn't developed much since becoming a Chunin. To a point, he asked her to stay home, telling her that she didn't have to do anything. But Sakura refused and intended to join the war herself. After all, there would be many who would be wounded, and she needed to help them. As the war prepared to begin, Sasuke met with Itachi and Shisui and began to give them a secret mission. He told them that Kabuto, one of Orochimaru's pupils, had taken over for him and was currently using the Edo Tensei to resurrect dead shinobi. He told Itachi and Shisui where they could find him, and told them that all they needed to do was force Kabuto somehow to make the hand signs for freeing the Edo Tensei. He then showed them what those hand signs were and told them to commit it to memory. They accepted the mission. Not long after, they set out searching for where Obito would be. To save lives, Sasuke informed Hiruzen of where Madara would appear and told him not to send forces there as he would eviscerate them. Instead, he gave them forewarning about where the Geto statue would be located. By the time they got there, Itachi and Shisui had completed their mission. All Edo Tensei besides Madara were then sent to rest. That being said, there were no other Kage there to support the group, and so Sasuke had to pick up the slack. By this time, Sasuke was proud to say that he was easily as strong as Madara, being a fair match for him without the Ten Tails. While he fought Madara though, Naruto faced off against Obito, hoping to defeat him here and now before he could make use of the Ten Tails. However, this failed. Obito would retreat and take for himself the Ten Tails, and after this, Madara would disengage from Sasuke to support Obito for a time. Naruto and Sasuke would meet up together and devise a plan to use the majestic armor Susanoo against Obito, outfitting Kurama with it. With the infusion of Six Paths chakra, the attacks of Kurama were capable of harming Obito. They would eventually succeed in ripping the Ten Tails from him. Sasuke would have known that Naruto did talk to him. Sasuke wasn't present in that conversation, after all he wasn't a Jinchuriki, but he knew that it would work on Obito, pulling him back to the light. It pained Sasuke that he would still be forced to kill Obito, however. That being said, the fate of the world was at stake, and so it was better that they defeat Kaguya now before she could awaken. And so, as Obito was planning to utilize his Rinnegan to restore the lives lost due to his actions, Zetsu attached itself to Obito. Sasuke knew that this was his chance. Zetsu was the one responsible for reviving Kaguya. It was he who was the key to reviving Kaguya's ego within the Ten Tails, and without him, she would always be incomplete. So the moment Zetsu took over Obito to force him to revive Madara, Sasuke unleashed the most powerful Amaterasu onto both Zetsu and Obito, being sure to destroy Obito's Mangekyou in the process. In that way, he knew that Zetsu couldn't use it against them. With Zetsu destroyed, the only one left to defeat was Ito Tensei Madara. Each of the tailed beasts offered Naruto a portion of their power, which in turn granted him access to Six Paths Sage Mode. Together, the two of them fought against Madara, and would manage to seal him up using Six Paths Chibaku Tensei, sending him out into space to drift away forever like a rogue planet. And with that done, the war came to an end. Just as Sasuke had thought, the world returned to peace, with only a select few realizing that Konoha had manipulated events in their favor. But this wasn't the end yet. Sasuke knew that Toneri Otsutsuki would soon attack the Earth from the moon, and so Sasuke would remain in the village to defend it. The moment the threat arose, Sasuke told Hiruzen all about it. However, Sasuke knew that he was not required to beat Toneri. That was Naruto's domain. Naruto could and would do it, saving Hinata, discovering his true love, and proving himself worthy of the title. Due to Sasuke's recommendation, Hiruzen decided to retire and would name Naruto as the next Hokage, the 5th. There was a difference there, as Naruto had originally been the 7th. However, since Hiruzen had never perished, and since Tsunade and Kakashi had not been named such, Naruto would be number 5 instead. This was poetic to Sasuke, as it simply moved Naruto's head on the monument closer to his father. But with all of this said and done, and both parties of legal age now, Sasuke would marry Sakura. And when the time came, they would conceive. This would lead to the birth of Sarada, who Sasuke had yet to actually meet. Yet now he was finally getting his chance. So many years of waiting, such a long journey. Finally, Sasuke was home, and he was pleased. Fu was pleased too. "I knew you'd get there," he said as he watched Sasuke's story. Standing up though, he began to walk back. Having seen the conclusion of this experiment, Fu was overjoyed with himself. Not just because he got to view a new timeline, but because there were spoils. Yes, Fu got the leftovers. As he walked down the hall, he passed into his laboratory. There were many things there that he'd collected from this world. From manuscripts on chakra, sage mode, and various ninjutsu to even one timeline's remains of Shibai. But right now in his hand he carried a small bag, something that had been lost to Konoha by the hand of the Akatsuki and never found. As Obito had implanted in his head one of Pain's Rinnegan, he had left the other in his secret base for fear that the excess power might drive him crazy. But now, Fu was holding onto that Rinnegan. Putting it into a safe place, he began to wonder what he could do with all of it. Of course, he didn't personally need a Rinnegan, but it could be a great tool with which to make a new scenario. And now Fu wondered what he would do with it. He smiled. "I wonder what would happen if I gave this to someone in the Dragon Ball universe." And that's where our story ends for today. With Fu's newfound interest in the Naruto world, things are getting interesting. Now that he's introduced the concept of fusion to the Naruto world, I assume the only logical step is to include the Rinnegan in Dragon Ball somehow. But who should we give this Rinnegan to? I could always do Goku, or even Vegeta, but there are plenty of others we could give it to as well, including Gohan and future Trunks. I'll have to think about it. There are plenty of Dragon Ball what-ifs I'd eventually like to do, some of which include Naruto elements, and even a few that are just pure Dragon Ball. One I'm particularly hoping to try is what if Gohan were the legendary Super Saiyan? I'd love to try something like that in the future. But anyway, regardless of that, what did you think about this video? Did you like it? If so, tell us all about it in the comments, along with other ideas you might like to see us tackle. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of other videos like these as they drop, and if you're still hungry for more, try out one of these videos on the screen. I'm sure you'll like them. Anyway, until next time, peace out.